Hey everyone, good to be back. Yep, there it is. This is a little bit of a different talk than I normally do. Where's Sasha? Sasha. Did he disappear? I want to dedicate this talk to Sasha. You miss one Valley in Berlin, and all of a sudden the team changes, the audience changes, and just nothing's the same. So, Sasha, this is for you. I want you to be inspired as you break off out of this corporate world and go on to your entrepreneurial journey. This is all about the hustle. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. For me, my entrepreneurial journey didn't really actually start that long ago, which begs the question why I'm here on stage talking to you. You can answer that yourself. But the hustle started a long time ago. I'll tell you a little story. Raise your hand. Are any skiers, snow skiing? All right, pretty good. I love snow skiing. Like, nothing invigorates me more to get out in that crisp, cold air, just to feel like the pores on your skin tighten up, the blue sky, the snow dusted on the trees, the crunching of the snow under your feet, going down the mountain at breakneck speed with the wind in your face, not knowing if you're going to crash, and that might be your last time down the mountain. Is that kind of how it is for everyone? Yeah, we're all on the same page? Good. Yeah. So, I started at a pretty young age, and I'm pretty fucking good, if I do say so myself. And, my mom says it, so that's true. And I remember when I was a kid, I would get to the end of the day, and I'm like, Mom, I made it the entire day without crashing. And of course, my mom is super proud, always proud. Even if I had crashed 100 times, she would have been way proud. Like, the best little skier on this planet. My dad, who's probably also proud, took this as a learning opportunity for me. And what he told me was, that's nice. Uh-oh. Can you get a clicker, please? Am I just going to go ad lib? That could get dangerous with all this Club Mate and lack of sleep. All right, well, okay. So Dad says to me, if you're not crashing, you're not trying hard enough. And while I didn't quite understand the profoundness of what he was saying, it kind of it rang true. It was like, okay, yeah, if I'm not crashing, I'm not really dancing that fine line of failure and success, and how am I ever going to accelerate as fast as I possibly can? And so what it did teach me at that early age was that, okay, you must embrace failure to achieve success at the highest rate possible. And it wasn't until maybe a week ago when I finally achieved that same age that my dad was when he told me that I really understood the profoundness of that statement. And how it could really apply to so much in life in my entire entrepreneurial journey. You need to dance that fine line of failure and success and not be afraid of it. And so that's what the hustle is for me. Hustling hard is not being afraid of failure. And this is going to sound super cliche. Actually, hustle is super cliche. And we'll get into that. And
Presentation apparently is only one slide. What do you want to do? Just do a quick Q&A first?
No, I'm going to go through it. I'll go through it, and then we'll do Q&A. We'll save time because I know we're a little behind, right?
But it's going to take 3 more minutes, 5 more minutes. I don't know how many minutes until we have the presentation on there. Who's in charge? I don't know. I could tell jokes because I prepared jokes all the time for times like this. Do you want to hear one? Who was at a Valley
This
Berlin?
happened at the very first Valley in Berlin that I spoke at.
It happens
Is
every
this a
time.
joke? Is this my last Valley in Berlin? Is this what's going on?
We're kicking you out right now.
Okay.
Who has been at a Valley in Berlin before? Because I wanted to know anyway. Okay, a few people. So you remember the yellow card, right? That's my secret backup for times like this when the technology isn't working. I have the worst jokes on the internet. And I spend at least 5 hours, they pay me. So I spend at least 5 hours to research the worst jokes on the internet. So here's one. My friend asked me to help him round up his 37 sheep. I said 40. Get it? Come on, that's really terrible.
I'm gonna.
Oh, I like this one. Ben, you're gonna love this one. I have the heart of a lion and a lifetime ban from Toronto Zoo.
You're good.
Come on, that's bad. That's bad. Do you want to read one? We have slides? We have slides. Thank God. Because I only had like 10 more jokes, but I'll tell them later. Okay, Ben, there you go.
Actually, oh my God, look at it. It's so much better.
This has happened before to Ben, and we are deeply sorry. There you go.
It's all right.
Shall we reset the time?
No, it's fine.
No?
I'm
Okay.
just gonna go. All right. You guys all remember the beginning of part starting. I don't need to start over. So yeah, hustle. It is cliche. There are conferences, or a conference called Hustle Con. I assume it's a conference about hustling, which sounds lame. But what is hustling? And the first thing that comes to mind actually is kind of the negative connotation of hustling. To be hustled. And no one likes that. Like, what is a hustler? Like, someone that hustles you is a used car salesman. There's no used car salespeople in this room, right? Okay, just making sure. I don't want to offend too many people. But essentially, a used car salesman, the reason they're so sleazy is they're selling you a bad bill of goods. They're trying to extract as many euros out of your pocket and try to give you something that might be a car, right? And that is shitty. I mean, like, no one wants to do that. And that's not very far off. There's like a fine line between that and actually being a good salesperson or a good entrepreneur and selling something that actually has value. And so what that fine line is empathy and honesty and actually the desire to create value. And so I have like an entrepreneur that I work with in our program. I run a startup accelerator. I don't know if you guys know. It might have to do with cannabis. You can ask me questions later. Anyways, this guy, everyone's like, yeah, he's such a hustler. And I'm like, do you mean that in a good way or a bad way? And a lot of times they actually do mean it in a bad way. And I'm like, but yeah, he's a little bit of a salesperson, but he's actually selling a really strong product, and he really believes it. And he eats his own dog food, as they say in the Valley. We don't actually eat dog food. It's just a term, right? Okay, good. And that's important. Like, when you are an entrepreneur or a good salesperson, it is your job to truly believe in what you're doing and your job to understand who you're making it for and to create value. And if you're not doing that, you are being a sleazy car salesman and no one likes you. Okay? Good. Okay. Empathy. Empathy drives everything. That is one of the most important things as an entrepreneur. I wasn't always an entrepreneur. I mentioned that. I literally just got into startups like 6 years ago. Before that, I was a consultant for a transportation engineering firm. I planned city roads and all that kind of stuff. That career, my previous life, taught me a lot about working with people and understanding that it wasn't about creating the coolest technology and having the fanciest graphics. If that helped get the job done, great. But what it was about was actually making my direct client look good. You know, I was servicing a client, and his job, the thing that made him the happiest at the end of the day was if he looked good to his boss. And that was really important to understand. It wasn't about creating the best transportation report. It wasn't about having the fanciest graphics or the coolest technology. It was basically job procurement for him. He wanted to tell his boss that he didn't make a bad decision by hiring me. And if I understood that, then I can make his day better. And understanding that was what allowed me to unlock success in consulting. My last year as a consultant, I had a 100% hit rate on my sales. Why I'm not still a consultant? Well, that'll come later on in the presentation. And then again, creating value. When you've created value, you believe, you don't even have to practice. You don't have to practice selling. You don't have to practice all these things. You just believe it. It exudes out of you. So make sure that you find that when you're doing whatever you're doing. And this doesn't have to be as an entrepreneur. This could be as a corporate salesperson, as a consultant. Just believe in what you're doing. And if you don't, find something different. And then finally, what hustling really means to me is getting shit done. And not getting shit done for shit's sake, but getting the important shit done. One of my favorite books is called Essentialism. It's by George McKeown. And it really helps you kind of drill down and understand what is essential every day. And if you're an entrepreneur, this is kind of, whether you know it or not, bred into you. This is why a lot of entrepreneurs burn a lot of relationships or make terrible employees or terrible significant others, because they know what's essential to them, that's what their focus is, and be damned if someone else has a different essential thing that they want you focusing on. That is why I'm not a consultant anymore, because I knew what was essential to me, but the company wasn't quite sure what that was. So do the essential. There's a couple entrepreneurs that I've had the pleasure of working with. One out of the Founder Institute program in Silicon Valley. Purva Gupta of this app called Lily. It's basically your personal stylist in your pocket. Purva, an immigrant founder, she had come from India to the Valley, non-technical, basically had the deck stacked against her. And I was like, this ought to be interesting. What are her chances of success, especially in a 3.5-month program? And what she had that got her through the program and actually got her to 6 figures of funding in a matter of 3.5 months was hustle. When we told Purva, you need to go find a co-founder, and we want you to find one in the next 2 weeks, she came back a week later with a co-founder. And it's all right, you need to build your technical team. And she came back with technical team. She found ways to do it. Yeah, sure, they weren't full-time, but we have a part-time person from Facebook and a part-time person from Netflix. And I'm like, that's pretty fucking awesome. And it was good enough to get her to the point where she was raising that 6 figures of funding in 3.5 months. A non-technical immigrant female founder in Silicon Valley. So you have no excuse not to succeed. Because if Purva can do it, anyone can do it. But not everyone has the hustle. And it's okay. Not everyone's cut out to be an entrepreneur. I mean, you can try it. That's why there's programs like Founder Institute. It's low barrier of entry. You can kind of test the waters, not spend your entire life savings, which I'll also get to later. It's not for everyone. And then the last thing about being a true hustler is being resourceful. And that is why I'm here on stage today, and why I've been on stage in Berlin for the last 3 years, is because getting ahead in life, getting ahead in entrepreneurship is about being resourceful. It's about taking the tools that you've gathered over the years, the network that you have, and figuring out how to use that to leverage you to get you to where you're going. When I stopped being a transportation consultant and I got into the tech industry, a lot of people started asking me, how did I do it? How did I do the career transition? How did I actually make myself interesting to people? I'm like, you just have to change the story. It's sit down and evaluate yourself. Be inward looking. Be honest with yourself. Who are you? And what do you have to offer to the world? And what is that differentiator to, whether it's applying for a job or creating a company and asking investors for money, how are you going to actually differentiate yourself? Resourcefulness is the most important factor that we look for when we're investing in companies. We have a founder of a company called GrowX. They're doing this super complicated AI-controlled aeroponics watering system. Essentially, it allows you to grow plants without any sort of medium, just misters. You're talking roots growing in midair, 98% less water consumption than a typical growing strategy. He needed to get prototypes put into a customer's location before we had demo day. The manufacturer was going to take too long, so he said, fuck it. He went to Home Depot, he bought a bunch of refrigerators, and he created 40 prototypes by hand in a matter of a week. And he's a software engineer. I'm like, I will write you a check even if this company fails, because I know he's going to do whatever it takes to get the job done. And the important thing to know is that hustling in of itself is not enough anymore. Everyone's hustling. You have to hustle hard. And the difficult thing about hustling hard is, well, it's hard. And it's supposed to be. That's a good thing, because doing the hard stuff is what differentiates you. And like differentiation, defensibility, the only way you get that is by doing things hard. Elon Musk isn't super rich and famous because he's doing easy shit. You know, autonomous rockets landing themselves, disrupting a stagnant auto industry. Like, these are hard problems. You have to do the hard problems. Like, what is going to make you defensible? To me, taking your idea, I have bigger teams, better capitalized, more experience. What's stopping me from kicking your ass? With working with Founder Institute, I was traveling around a lot, and I was hearing the same ideas in every city that I traveled to. And every person that told me their idea thought I was special, and half of them asked me to sign an NDA, and I said, you know what to do with that NDA. It's just not enough. You have to do the hard work, and you have to hustle. And I know everyone likes to talk about work-life balance and the importance of, you know, creating space in your schedule and all this stuff. Yeah, that's great. I can work twice as much as the normal person and still have a life, and still travel to Berlin and stand in front of people. So if you're not doing that, it's not hustling hard enough. So, what I was saying, life savings. This whole entrepreneur shit is not easy. And if you think it's easy, you just haven't been at it long enough, and you haven't hit that road bump yet. There are times where you start to realize that you're working on something that means more to you than you ever thought you could work on it. There are times where you will risk everything. Financial ruin, divorce, friendship, just to make your dream come true. This was my credit card debt a year ago. I don't want to ever go lower than that number. It did not feel good. But people have. I mean, very successful entrepreneurs have, including Elon, who is doing personal loans from people just to get his companies off the ground. Lord knows Donald Trump has been bankrupt 10 times. You just need to know that there are things, you will know that you're working on the right thing when you're willing to do things that you never thought you would be. There was a time where I was like, oh, I'll just go bartend. I'm like, usually my pride would get in the way of something like that. I'm like, no, I'm way above that. I was paid $150,000 to be a consultant. Why would I bartend? It wasn't even a question. I'm like, oh, I can go work at a gym. I could drive an Uber. Whatever it takes to get it done. That is hustle. Like I said, it will test your relationships. My wife and I had a conversation last year where I said, I need you right now. I know it's hard, but I need one more month. I need your support for one more month. I can make this happen, and if I don't, one of two things will happen. We'll get divorced and you'll leave me because I totally deserve it. Or two, I'll give this shit up and I'll go back to a corporate job, get a paycheck, and get benefits. That conversation literally happened. There's a lot of crying, and I felt like a shitty person, but I knew deep down that I was going to make this work. And luckily, in the next 2 weeks, there was $1 million term sheet on my desk, so it all worked out all right. I'm still married. Son's born in June, hopefully. So through thick and thin, it gets thick and it gets thin, and the ups and the downs, the highs and the lows become very high and very low. But the cool thing is, after you've been at it a little bit while, you start to look at it a little bit differently. The highs and the lows stop affecting you. You start to realize that it is merely your job to navigate these highs and lows. There's no way to prevent them. Even the best entrepreneurs walk in and there's a freight train like coming at them from the inside their office. Like, where the fuck did that freight train come from? It just happens, and like that just becomes part of your job. It's like, oh, half the staff walked out yesterday. I'm like, okay, well, let's go find some new ones. Is there anything we need to do? Like, is this opening a new door? And that's how you start thinking about things. It's like, oh, one door closes? Oh, new door opens. Like, I was going to restructure everything anyways. And it's interesting. You know, these are things that would have normally been devastating to me. But now it's like, oh, yeah. Last week, I wound down 2 efforts that were a considerable amount of time that we had started last year. And I'm just, no, it's a distraction. Get rid of it. Fuck it. You got to focus on what's important to get it done. And because it's so hard, you need to have a support system, a co-founder. Like, you hear this all the time. Investors like people with co-founders. It's because it's hard, and it helps to have someone, you know, kind of like marriage. I heard one time, it's like, marriages fail when both people give up at the same time. It's very easy for one person to give up, but for 2 people to give up at the same time, it's actually pretty difficult. And so to have a co-founder that is there to counterbalance your highs and their lows, it really, really helps. And also to make sure you don't do anything stupid and be irrational and check your emails. Like, both me and my co-founder are pretty decent writers. We check each other's emails probably 4 or 5 times a day, just to make sure that the tone is coming across right, that the right people are on the email, that he's not being an asshole, which he could be a lot. Sorry, Carter. But it's just true. It really helps. Get a co-founder. Also, sidebar, your ability to recruit a co-founder is probably the best sign of you actually getting traction before you have traction. That's a whole nother talk. Or, I'm going to I'm going to speed this up. Or is very important. I know, you probably thought I was going to skip over or. Or is very important. It's the pivot, right? We always talk about pivot. Some people don't like pivots. It's important to always be honest with yourself and be evaluating and always be searching for ways to improve your business. And if your business is going to hell, really consider one of these ors. And if your business is going to hell because of you, think about your or. Maybe it's time to take a break. There's nothing wrong with that. Go back, take a mental break. Who knows what doors it's going to open? You might find yourself on stage in Berlin. Who knows? There's always another opportunity. You have plenty of life ahead of you. The thing that opens up the whole or potential is for you to realize what your role is. So many people get tied to their idea, and their idea becomes part of them. And that is a surefire way of failing. So, who is working on a company right now? All right, so about half, maybe less than half. Where's all the entrepreneurs at? We'll just make everyone do it, because I like engagement. So you guys are going to say something along with me, because I know Christoph loves it when I do this. So say it with me. I am not my idea. Okay, 1, 2, 3. I am not my idea. That was really weak. I am not my idea. I am not my idea. Did you get it? Okay, so by you not being your idea, you start to realize that your idea was merely a hypothesis of a way to solve a problem. Your goal is to solve that problem, to provide value. not to create your idea. So if your idea all of a sudden becomes the shittiest way of solving that problem, your job is to stop and reevaluate or quit. Simple, right? I think I went over this, that's fine. So let's talk about dying. Okay, if I haven't gotten this across to you yet, it's fucking hard. It's very painful at times. It's totally worth it and it's awesome. But yeah, when overnight successes take about 7 years to make, think what a slow and steady company takes. This is a long-term thing. You should be prepared to die doing what you're doing. And this isn't digging on like old people in the room. It's like, actually one of the things that actually made me get into entrepreneurship was the realization that you don't know when your time is up. So you might as well make it worthwhile and to start doing what you love to do. But the thing is, with technology, you know, we might live to see 150, so you need to start taking care of yourself. So I want you to eat well, exercise, hustle your asses off, and don't die. I might die today. I don't know when the last time I slept was. This whole time change between San Francisco and here is really messing me up. And finally, trying. Try new things. Try everything. Go through periods maybe where you're trying more, and then you have a period afterwards where you're trying less. There's this big thing in Silicon Valley right now about biohacking, where people are trying weird shit. I may or may not have taken something today that was just like, oh, maybe this will help me focus a little bit. And then I drank a Club Mate. It's an interesting combination.